right, now I could sit here and list all your credentials, but I think everybody in the room pretty much already knows a lot of that stuff. One of the things we've always prided ourselves on is asking questions that we want to know the answers to, and that some of the people haven't heard or can't look up on Wikipedia or just act like they know everything about somebody before they even have a drink or sit outside and have a conversation with them. So, yeah, what is this? What is in the bag? I feel like Brad Pitt in that movie. Do I want to know?
Just from it's my Tough 19 bag. What's up, buddy? You gonna put it out there? What? You gonna put it up on the table? I was waiting, but I guess you're gonna make me do it now. Put it on the spot, Mike. Put it on the spot.
We got a routine broken up here, huh?
I haven't seen Ken in a long time. It's really great. I do love you, man.
Hey, brother, you're special.
Respect.
Thank you.
I was jealous of you a little bit, but really more envious, Ken. Envious. Wanted to beat you when I saw UFC 1. That was my spot. Woo! And then he lasted a lot longer than me. I'm sitting there watching at home and he's still rolling. Man, I was envious again. And now, yes, the Beller, BKB and all the stuff going on. It's good to see you, Ken.
Appreciate you.
So I brought you a little gift. If I can get to it. Probably take me forever, but it's too much. Actually, I didn't even know you were going to be here. But I just threw it in my bag anyway, so there you go. I know how much you love the Hammer House, right?
Oh, brother, come on, man. That's legacy right there.
Yeah. Ken invented the ground and pound, but
Well, he made it famous.
I'm the godfather. But Ken did ground and pound first. I just kind of tweaked it a little bit. But on the back, we got the hammer.
There you go. Appreciate you, brother.
I forgot I had this in here.
Forgot, he says. Really?
I forgot I had this in here. What we got? Oh, yeah.
Oh. Like the best looking belt of all time.
Is that the first heavyweight champion?
UFC 10, actually.
Yes. Yeah.
UFC 10. But you were supposed to bring one, actually. What's up, Ken?
Yeah, I know, man. I'm brain dead, man.
Ken was supposed to bring in. I was told to bring in.
He didn't know which one.
Ken's getting ready to rewrite history next week.
Is that right if I put that there?
He's got a lot to keep track of. You absolutely.
Is that right?
Put that thing anywhere you want right there.
Well,
That's one of the
I
top.
won't cover your whole body.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna let that one slide right there because of the shirt. All right, I did have a few questions that some people asked me to ask. So I'd like to start out with the first one, and I'll start with Ken. And I'd like to know how you feel about the current version of MMA compared to the NHB product of the beginnings of the sport. Do you think it's time finally now that everyone is ready to go back to the roots and see what today's athletes, or maybe even just a smattering of some of yesterday's athletes, can do underneath NHB rules?
Well, I think it's a journey. I mean, obviously, when we first started doing it, there was things in there that you looked at and go, okay, maybe we don't need that. Like the football kick, go down the opponent, kneeing people in the back of the head. There was just some stuff in there that you knew you could clean up and make it more of, instead of a spectacle, more of an event. And so I agreed with the growth of it and how they were trying to make it a little bit more accessible to the mainstream public. But there was also things that they did too that I felt they took away from the purity of the sport, which was when they put gloves on people. I really thought, like, at that moment that I understood why they did it, and even as I went forward with it, I thought maybe it was safer. But as soon as I put gloves on and I realized what I could do, I could literally punch a guy in the back of the head, rabbit punch him anywhere in the head 100 times and not hurt my hand. I realized then, I was like, okay, this just doesn't feel right. It felt almost like we were cheating in a bit. We were selling a product that wasn't real. Like, for instance, we wanted to make it safer. Well, it wasn't safer. It was actually more damaging to the guys that were losing. We were making it safer for the guys that were winning, and it felt like almost like we were cheated out of purity of fighting. Two guys go in there with bare knuckle, and they fight with God-given talent. And I felt when we went away from that, it almost took away the purity of it. It wasn't like I didn't enjoy it. It wasn't like I didn't have success with it, and that I was successful at it, because I was. But I just felt like, man, that part that I fell in love with, that gave me that big adrenaline rush. Like that very first event where there was no rules and there was no gloves, and guys went out there and they fought. And it just felt like that rush and that purity of it was gone.
And then now going over to Mark, one of the things that you got to do was revisit that purity when you went to Japan and started being able to use some of the different amounts of rules where you can strike on the ground. How do you feel about today's product in MMA as compared to the NHB?
This thing working?
Yeah, sure.
What was the question?
How do you think today's product compares to the NHB?
Well, it's different. It's great product. Can you believe how big it is? I can remember walking out there after UFC 10. After I won it, I was, I couldn't believe the cops weren't coming. I'm going to get a paycheck. I just beat up 3 guys, and the cops ain't coming, and everybody was smiling and thought it was cool, So it was great then. I think it's great now. It's just time changes every sport. But when I was walking off UFC 10, I won it. The first thing I thought, I'm like, 20 years, there are going to be some Russians coming. And, well, there are. If you didn't know, it was Khabib last week. He's one of them I was thinking about. But I was just thinking wrestling. And, man, when we wrestled the Russians, you knew you were wrestling the best. And there were a lot of them. Thousands and thousands of Russian wrestlers. It was so popular in that world. And then they're here. They're here from everywhere. It's a worldwide sport. It's a $4.2 billion company. Can you believe they paid that much, Ken? Wow.
We built it.
We helped build that. Yes, we did. But
now, especially as it pertains to wrestlers, you're known as being one of the first to really go in there and show that an American wrestler can dominate, and they did it ever since. I mean, at one point in time, every UFC title holder except for like one was dominant in wrestling and able to handle fighting on the ground as their primary go-to.
well, you got to give some respect to Dan Severn. The Beast got in there. He was a world-class wrestler, and he got in there. He did a version of the ground and pound as well. Not my version. I have my own version. What was the question?
That's it.
No, what'd you ask?
I just said.
Oh, wrestling.
No, you were one of the first ones. You give credit to Severn for that.
Severn.
He was, yeah.
But then, yes,
You put the oomph
I was licking my chops. I seen Shamrock and Gracie in their UFC 1. I'm sitting on a college campus, too old to be there, but I was there, living there, coaching, poor, and with my wrestling buddies and a couple non-wrestling buddies, and I watched these guys go at it UFC 1, and I was real confident. I knew exactly what I was going to be doing as soon as they let me in that cage. That's that's me. That's what I was born. Wrestling was born to wrestle, but I was born in that cage too. I knew it, and I could whoop these guys. And my buddies they had my back. They believed in me too. But finally, about 10 shows later, I got the call from the UFC. You just got picked back then. You didn't have to climb the ranks. Just had to have a name. And they finally did give the wrestlers. They didn't even, wrestling, what's that? It's not even a martial art. Whoa. Let me show you it is. Let Dan Severn show you, but I'm going to show you again. And if you can't wrestle, you can't fight. Period. And as you see all the like you said, how many wrestling champs we have out there. And everybody was kind of getting worried. Ground and pound was cool if you ground and pounded, but then a lot of people kind of did the lay and pray, and people weren't digging that. But I told everybody to relax, because everybody's going to learn how to wrestle, and for the most part, everybody that gets in that cage now, they can stop a takedown. So now it's transformed, and that's why stand-up is so important. And the fans love stand-up, so it's good for the sport. It's not all stand-up. You still better be able to wrestle, because if you can't, Khabib's going to snatch you and throw you on the ground. So I just think it's amazing. There's so many fights, so many organizations all over the world, big companies now succeeding, small companies succeeding. You know, it's here, it's big, it's going to be the greatest, it's going to be the biggest sport in the world someday, maybe. That's it. Did I answer your question?
You did.
Okay.
You did a great job.
Edit that.
Yeah, we'll edit that down. All right, now you started out with that UFC one, Shamrock versus Gracie, and it seems like, you know, they didn't invite a lot of wrestlers for a while, because they're, you know, it was designed to sell Gracie Jiu-Jitsu to the world. They didn't really want a lot of people. They changed the rules for Ken how many times? And then he kicked you in the nuts on Bellator.
3 different times they actually changed
And that
the
was,
rules on it.
you know, that's bullshit, boys. Why you gotta do that? You already got your money at that point.
That's part of the game.
Yeah, that's what he said in the interview.
Japan changed the rules all the time. You just gotta, what are you gonna do, cry? You're
Right.
already there. You gotta accept the rule changes and you gotta adapt and you gotta go for it. That's part of MMA, right, Kim?
That's it.
No holds barred. You gotta be ready for a quick,
Very true.
you gotta be ready for a quick rule change.
Well, my next sentence was, and you never bitched about it. You never went out there crying about it. You just went out and got better every time. And every time you got in the cage, you showed more skill sets. And I'll bet, you know, as it goes to next weekend, you finally get your own set of rules. You know, he talked about lay and pray. If we took the gloves off, that era would have kind of petered out quite a bit, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
And so, tell us about the fighting surface. Have you guys decided on that yet? I know that it's coming up short, and there hasn't been a lot of announcement, but I know that you're bringing back pit fighting, and I'd like to hear about next week's event and what the world is going to see.
Yeah, it's September 21st in Newtown, North Dakota. I'm bringing back something I fell in love with back in the beginning when it was bare knuckle, no rules, no time limit. And I fell in love with it, and then a guy like Tank Abbott came in, put some gloves on, and started knocking people out. And then they sold it as this bill of goods, so let's make it safer. And the reality of it is they were just protecting the guys that were winning so they can come back in that night and fight again. And so I fell in love with the purity of bare knuckle, the purity of fighting with no gloves on. I just felt like the submissions were much more strategic, and the striking was much more strategic when you weren't wearing gloves, as opposed to when you put gloves on, the submissions became much more difficult. You would throw strikes from anywhere, not hurt your hand. And so it felt like it just took away that purity and what I fell in love with at first. And I always told myself if I had the chance, I wanted to bring back bare knuckle, because I wanted people to experience what I experienced in that first event and a couple of events after that, of that excitement of bare knuckle, about going in there and fighting with no gloves on. And so here I am today with that opportunity to bring back that dream, to be able to have fighters that are fighting on this event, to be able to experience that bare knuckle love that I fell in love with, so that they'll be able to go out and have their own careers in the bare knuckle space, bring it back to the fans. Because I mean, if you remember back in the day when people would go to watch these events, it started after the first show, where guys would take people down and you'd hear them screaming at them, stand them up, because they wanted to see guys go at it, bare knuckle. And so now I'm going to do that in North Dakota. I want to give the fans something I think they fell in love with in the beginning, just like I did, which was the bare knuckle. So September 21st in North Dakota, Four Bears Casino. We're going to be bringing back bare knuckle fighting, valor, bare knuckle fighting. You can check it out on pay-per-view. We got Fight TV. You can get it on your phones. So I invite you guys to watch this bare knuckle experience, and at least in my opinion, I think that it's going to change the landscape of what we see right now in combat sports.
Awesome. I agree.
Turn it off, woman.
I turned it off so much. I didn't want to fuck you up, man. You know what I mean? I didn't want to be like, my show. It's
Cussing
uncensored.
on.
It's my show. It's uncensored.
Beat yourself up.
Yeah, we'll edit that later. We'll edit that later.
I agree with you, Ken Shamrock. I love BKB, BKF, whatever. I've been in it for a while, watching it for 4 or 5 years. I had a couple of my guys fighting over in England, and all of a sudden I seen your post, and I was excited for you. Sweet.
That was my question. You answered it already. Another one.
What?
Killed it. I was going to say, now what do you think about all this?
Well, I asked Ken if he wanted to fight, and when I seen it, Ken, I just
No,
it was a friendly.
I'm gonna be the president. I'm gonna promote, man. I'm not fighting.
Yeah, well, I just sent out a friendly request, you know.
Well, you got to call someone else out? You want to fight someone else, bare knuckle?
Well, I got to get some stem cell first and get my shit going, brother. You know, but never say never.
That's right.
But I put out a friendly little invitation to Ken, but it was friendly,
Yeah.
and it took off pretty good, and people were excited to see me and Ken go at it. Unfortunately, I wanted to answer that question because that's what I get most of the time. Did you ever fight that Shamrock guy? And
I have a lot of respect for Mark, man. The highest respect for him and what he did when he came on the sport. He took it by storm. And but for me, man, I think that, you know, I've been fighting a very long time. And when I stepped away from fighting, I stepped away. And so for me to get back in the cage, it's just not in the cards for me.
All right, now moving on just a little bit. Both of you guys are no strangers to professional wrestling. We're gonna ditch the real fighting since you're not gonna do that. You guys can easily get down, and I saw you have a standoff with Dan Severn recently. And one of the things I wanted to kind of get at with that is I don't think a lot of people realized back when Monday Nitro was going up against Monday Night Raw, Nitro was killing them. Always. They had the better storylines. They still had that NWA-style Southern pro wrestling that looked a little more believable than what they were doing, the high-flying AWA style in the WWF or WWE. It might have already switched back then. I love the World Wildlife Foundation, too, by the way. However, they should have backed off, man. They screwed us all up for years. But WCW was killing them. And then something kind of happened in '97 with the senator and then the rest of the country deciding that NHB was going to get kiboshed. And all of a sudden, we started seeing Dan Severn and then Ken Shamrock showing up at WWE events. But what I noticed was the quality of matches improved almost immediately, it seemed like. And I want to say that not enough people give you guys, I saw The Rock doing it recently, however, but not enough people give you guys credit for changing that game the way that you did. I mean, even Tank Abbott with his dancing, with his dancing routine there. You know, the NHB guys coming over did a lot, and it really cemented the win for Vince McMahon, did it not?
It did, because what happened was when they brought me in, they came in, and I think Vince had the mentality of taking this no-holds-barred era and bringing it into pro wrestling, because they took, I mean, WCW took all the stars. They took Hulk Hogan, they took Nash, even Hunter. They took a lot of those guys over to that organization, so there was no star power in the WWF. So Vince had to change the direction of pro wrestling. He had to go in and try to figure out how does he compete with all those big stars that left his organization and went over to WCW. So what he did was he basically brought a guy like me in from the fighting organization, No Holds Barred, the world's most dangerous man, and literally started to try to rub shoulders with guys like Bret Hart, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Steve Blackman, all these guys, and started to create this other thing called the Attitude Era. Whereas that it wasn't about the flipping their hair back and doing that little dance, woo, and all these other things that had been the staple of pro wrestling. He wanted to bring it back to more of that nasty attitude era. And so by bringing me in, I think that really helped solidify the characters. And if you watch the match between Stone Cold, Steve Austin, and Bret Hart that I refereed, that match right there really changed the direction of what Vince was trying to do in the organization at that time, which was build these hardcore matches, these hardcore characters, and a hardcore style in pro wrestling. And he literally changed that direction to the Attitude Era off of that one match that Stone Cold Steve Austin, Bret Hart, and myself were involved with during that time. After that match, you literally saw the change in direction in pro wrestling, where it became cool. Like when you ask people if they watch pro wrestling, they'd always like, well, I didn't see that one. Whereas like now all of a sudden everybody was saying, yeah, I watched pro wrestling. It was actually cool again to be watching pro wrestling. And I believe it was all because Vince came in trying to figure out how to change this pro wrestling, flipping the hair back, flamboyant, sweet talking, woo characters into I will kick your ass if you look at me cross-sided. And by doing that, I think that he was able to compete with all those superstars over in WCW. And as we all know, literally took over that war and ended up buying out WCW because of that Attitude Era.
I agree wholeheartedly, and I'm glad to hear that story right firsthand like that, because I noticed back in the day, and I was a WCW guy, and I switched because of DX and all that different stuff and some of those matches that you were talking about. All right, again, we want to thank everybody for coming out here tonight. We're going to let each of these guys talk a little bit to close it out, definitely wrap it up. And man, this has been something sitting up here with the two of you. I mean, we could probably go a lot further.
All the glory, man.
And we shared a heck of a lot of stories that didn't quite make it up here. So you make it to the next MMA VIP club, and you can be a part of that as well. Oh, wait a second. We got a couple questions for you first. You can thank them, and then we'll ask.
I just didn't get a chance to thank all the veterans, the military, the sponsors. I got some real nice gifts, met some great people, had some good stories back and forth. Got to hold the gun.
Without a clue.
Really cool being up here with Ken. Haven't seen him in a long time. Long time. You look great, Ken. You motivate me.
I'm happy for you.
Time for me to get back in the gym, and one of the gifts, the whiskey. Thank you, but I'm gonna have to give that to my dad because I promised him I would quit drinking, which I have, and I'm gonna stay on that route. But my dad don't drink either. My dad don't drink either, but he's gonna be happy when I hand that bottle to him. He's gonna be proud of me. So I'm excited about doing that. Thanks for it, but gotta get rid of that devil. Get the devil out of here. But it's been a great day, and you did a good job, everybody.
I appreciate that. They're going to ask some questions. You hang on to that.
Okay. I like that. Ask me good questions.
All right, who's got some questions out there? Right there, right in the front there.
Dana White ever opened up Legends?
Ken just said he's done, and I'm done. I have 4 hip replacements, man. That's it. The Lord said no more, and I was 45. I had a man. I made it that far. I wanted more. He pulled the plug on me. I went and got an MRI on my hip, and the doc told me you're done. It had been hurting for 2-3 years, but I dealt with it. But he said it's time, and I was like that. It was horrible news. I wasn't ready to be done. Even though I was 45, I had a lot more in my tank. But my body said no more, and it hurt. I was lost. I didn't know what to do for a long time, and I'm still trying to figure it out. I got time. I got time, but
And to think about that, you understand the level that Mark was at. I mean, he came in and just dominated right from the start. People saw this guy who was like a bodybuilder and come in there with the cardio and be able to dominate the sport. I did it before he did it. And to be able to have that mentality as being the best fighter in the world at that moment, and then all of a sudden you start fading because of injuries, not because of your willpower or because of your heart. It's because of your body. It starts to come, it takes away from you. And so for us to have to say, man, I can't do that no more, that's like the love of your life, right? I mean, it's everything that made you who you are. And now you got to say goodbye to it. So it's really hard.
yeah, it's really hard. That's why I'm leaving the window open a little bit, Ken.
Not me.
Never said. I'm gonna get my stem cell, and I'm gonna take off 5-10 years of myself. Ken just got it, and he feels good. I'm excited about that. I want to get over to Columbia and get a squirt pretty much everywhere in my body, and then we'll start that negotiation, Ken. And I was just playing. Ken, I was just playing.
Hey, listen, I got a wife, brother. She says I'm done. I'm done.
No, he's done. But Wendell's correct, you know. No, I'm just kidding. I was done 45. And Ken's still rolling on. He went when he was banged up, injured. I understand it, you know, and he just kept fighting because I would never have walked away. I mean, I had to stop. I was told it's over. Ken never was told you're done. He fought for a long time, and I watched him on TV. I watched him in the beginning. I was envious, and then at the end, I was jealous, envious. And he rode for a long time. He got everything out of his body. I'm proud of him. I mean, because hey, that cage is a cage or ring. It's a special place. Special place, and you can't really replace that high. You know, and a lot of guys. I understand the military, the injuries, the brain injuries and stuff. I relate to that quite a bit. And my body took a beating. I'm pretty sure my head took some, but I think I got out of it pretty good. But there's a little bit there, so you gotta fight. You gotta fight that depression because you shouldn't. And as I've gotten older now, you know, it's just I appreciate what I was able to do, what the Lord gave me in 45 years, 25 of wrestling. Now that's what beat up my body. I got to point that out. The amateur wrestling, 28-year grind, made the Olympic team. That's what made me a fighter. Wrestling, can't wrestle, can't fight. But I paid the price, but I have no complaints. You know, as you can see, you know, I'm upright. I'm still upright. I got a couple borrowed parts in me, but they work pretty good. Thank you.
All right, got Robert Gordon in the back.
I just wanted to ask a question about your fighting style. When you guys were coming up, it was very, wrestling-oriented, ground and pound style. Do you see that continuing in any kind of professional setting, or do you think that that's more of a style that's for the street?
That's confusing, Ken. I don't know. Before the street, you better be careful going on the ground in the street because somebody's gonna come up and kick you in the head or slice you or whatever. But ground and pound is still being used by some of the best. Khabib uses it to perfection. It's hard to do because guys are so much better, and it's so hard to take them down because everybody did learn how to wrestle, so it's not easy getting them takedowns. And if you do get a takedown, guys can get up a lot quicker. So ground and pound still is being used by some of the elite. Danny Cormier is still ground and pound you. He probably should have a little bit longer in that last Stipe fight because it came back to haunt him. He should have kept him, taking him down possibly. But Khabib, for example, ground and pound still exists. You just don't see it as often. And the American fans, they want to see knockouts. Let's face it, they want to see stand-up knockouts. BKB, I love it. I got to fight one time. I only fought one time with no gloves. It was against Dan Severn. Ken.
Oh, you crushed him.
What?
You crushed him.
Well, the tournament, you got to wear the gloves. Everybody thought it was protecting the other, it's protecting my hand, the gloves were. But when I had to fight Severn, one fight, one night, I wanted that belt. And I figured I could do more damage without the glove on. And I was telling Dan a story once. I said, I was a wrestler, man. It was in my blood. I took people down. I like to spar, I like to spar and practice, but the lights ain't on. There's not a crowd. It's fun. You got headgear on. I'm throwing bombs. But then when you get in the cage and the lights are on, I couldn't pull the trigger. But and I was telling Dan Severn that story. He looked at me like I was crazy because he said, Mark, you hit me with a right hand right in the freaking nose. He goes, I seen three of you, and then he goes, I go, Oh, is that when you shot that ill-advised double leg, Dan? Because right after I cracked him, I forgot about it. He says, yeah, you cracked me pretty good. And, well, he shot a double leg, which, no, that was my, at the time, I respect Dan, but I was the biggest, better wrestler that night, and don't shoot on me, and, you know. But I didn't have to throw any punches that night. A lot of people say, a lot of people think me and Severn were great buddies, and I didn't wear gloves because we were kind of agreed to wrestle each other that night. Oh, heck no, just the opposite, everybody. I didn't wear gloves because I would have, hey, I love you, Dan Severn, but not when that cage door shuts, it's on. And I was looking to ground and pound him, but just so happens, I've been working that side neck headlock crank, and I've been working on everybody in practice. And Dan Severn gave it to me. He was bigger than everybody in practice and stronger, and he fought it for a good almost a minute. And my arms were getting tired, and the nice guy Dan Severn even reached up and stuck his fingers in my eye. The only rule you don't have, and he broke it.
Well, he hit me in the nuts, so it wasn't that nice.
Severn did?
Yeah.
Well,
when I checked him out.
he sure's got everybody believing he's the nice guy, but he poked me in the eye and hit Shamrock in the nuts. But finally, man, I was ready to loosen up the grip because my arms were getting tired, but I just gave it one extra crank. Wow. Thankfully, old Dan Severn tapped, and wow, I got the first belt. Man, it's just, I can't believe it. No cops came. It was supposed to be held in Buffalo, New York. This is when the UFC's fighting all kinds of lawsuits. Bob Meyerowitz, they spent a lot of money getting this whole thing started. I love and respect the man. And we're in Buffalo, New York. And me and Severn are doing radio shows and stuff that we didn't do back then. It was, kind of cool, but at the same time, I didn't want to be bothered. I wanted to sit in my room and train and lay down, relax. But it was kind of cool once you got there and you're on it was big time, going to be big time. But then Friday night, the UFC called us down 8 o'clock at night to the room and said, fight's canceled in New York. I was crushed, but they had a backup plan. We packed the whole plane up, flew down to Alabama, and Dothan, Alabama. Man, great people down there. Very, very nice people. They accepted us in there, and the show went on. It was great. The show went on, and here we are today.
All right, we got one more audience question, then I'm going to ask you both the same question.
I haven't got a picture of either of you two yet. Can I wear the belt and get a double picture?
Yeah, you can wear the belt. Anybody can wear the belt if you want. That's what I brought it for. I mean, I didn't want to bring it because Ken, I'll blame it on his manager. Ken's manager forgot to give him the news to bring his. It would have been nice having two up there, but I didn't bring it, and I didn't travel with that damn thing to not bring it here.
Right.
So it's here, but Ken's got a couple that look just like it. At least one. I don't know how many you got there, buddy.
Yeah, I got two. Yeah.
Ken's got two beautiful belts. Wow. Old school. But Ken Shamrock and myself, I like to say we were both old school, but we fought so long. Old school / new school. Right, Ken?
That's it, brother.
I fought when there was rules. Right. So it was a lot funner for me when there were no rules. I was a big no rule fan. Loved it. No rules. The gloves I had to wear because I was doing a lot of punching. And after UFC 10, after 3 fights in one night, my hands hurt so bad. My hands were killing me. They were swelled up for over a month. And that's a good problem to have. 3 fights in one night, the only thing that hurts is your hands. That was unbelievably cool. I'm going through the airport the next day. It hurt. But I'm glad it was my hands and not my face.
All right, so I'd like to close it off like we always did on UMOR Live. The tag. All right, here.
All right, so if you could do a tag team mixed martial arts match, no gloves, who would you pick as a partner, and who would you like to fight as opponents? Other than yourselves.
Yeah, you mean as a tag team, but we can't pick each other?
Yeah, that would be fun. That's too obvious.
I would probably have to say Masakatsu Funaki. One, he was my instructor, and I thought very highly of him, and very skilled, good conditioning. So yeah, he would be the one I would want to be a tag team partner with because he can do me the best. And if I was wanting to fight somebody that I didn't get a chance to fight in the UFC, I would have to say probably Brock Lesnar. I thought I matched up well against him. Yeah. No, I wouldn't team up with him. I'd team up with Funaki, but I would fight.
So you're team up, double team. Team up on him?
Oh, you want another person with him? Oh, yeah, well, I think then we'd have to go with Hoist Gracie. Brock Lesnar or Hoist Gracie.
Same question.
All right. I don't. Tell it again, please.
All right. Tag team mixed martial arts. We'll give you a pair of gloves so your hands don't swell up.
I don't need no gloves, brother. I don't freaking need them.
You pick a partner.
The heck?
You pick a partner to fight alongside of you as a tag team partner, not Ken, and you pick two opponents to go against.
I'll take Ken Shamrock. I gotta go with my buddy, my best friend. He's no longer with us. Kevin the Monster Randleman. I mean, rest in peace. I can't believe he's not in the Hall of Fame, Ken. I mean, people send me highlight videos of him all the time. He's loved all around the world by so many people. And I see these highlight videos, and I was in the corner of most of them, almost all of them, if not all of them. Eventually, well, you never know. I mean, you got the UFC, we'll see what. The Monster, and I tell you what, we did some tag team pro wrestling over in Japan, and we were good. Me and the Monster, he did all the high flying. I did the stuff down on the ground, the suplexes and stuff. I let random and Duke could jump from one side to the other. Ken, I mean, he just had so much charisma. But yeah, we rode a lot together. I was his coach at Ohio State, one of the greatest wrestlers at Ohio State ever. They got a guy named Kyle Snyder there, or else he would be the greatest. Kyle He's going for 5 Olympic golds is what his dream is. He might just get it. This guy's that crazy. Injuries will say. But, so me and the Monster, I guess, honestly, versus Ken Shamrock. I always wanted to fight this guy. Everybody always asks me, have you guys ever fought? And I always have to say no. But I would like to be, I would like to say we did. Who would have won? Of course I'm going to think I did, and of course Ken's going to think he did. That's just the way you freaking think. But the truth is, we didn't do it, so nobody really is going to ever fucking know. Excuse me. Beat that out. I don't cuss anymore. My mom might watch this, and she really don't like me cussing at all. But I could never get through an interview without saying darn it or something. But Ken Shamrock and let him hang out with his best friend. Me and Randall Bergman versus Ken Shamrock and Tito Ortiz. How about that? Yeah, we wouldn't even have to fight.
Yeah, because I don't know we'd get to the ring without fighting one another.
They would already be beat up when they got into the ring. So create your own luck. Create your own damn luck in this sport. Not too much is in there is lucky to me. They talked about Jorge Masvidal's knee. Everybody wants to call it lucky. I don't call it lucky. I call it strategically planned, even to the point where he was leaning up against the cage prior to that fight starting, making possibly Ben Askren think it's going to be an ease into this type of fight. And, just a perfectly timed knee. And, hey, Ben Askren, he was up the next day doing interviews. He will be back. So it's just, you go from the high to the low but you gotta get back up. I always loved, the Pride Grand Prix was my favorite, you know. Come back after so many people said you're done, you're never gonna win. Well, got something up my sleeve. So, just a great night. Thank everybody.
Right, that concludes our interview and our evening. You can stick around. Got a bar across the street. And don't forget this weekend, Valor fighting. Valor bare knuckle fighting.
September 21st.
Yes,
Valor
watch it.
BK.
Oh, hey.
All the pay-per-view networks, and you can get it on Fight TV on your phone. So if you're not at home and you're traveling, you can get it on Fight TV and watch it on your phone. But this is going to change, I think, combat sports. So jump on now, man. Enjoy the ride.
Valor, Ken Shamrock, the 4-man tournament was brilliant, and the guys you got in there, I can't believe how everybody's so ecstatic about Mighty Mo. I fought that crazy man on top of old prison cell for it was a movie type deal, but it was a real fight. Holy crap, I took him down real fast.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Because he's got a stat card, he's got some big names, and I wish you the best, Ken. And I've told you before, if I can do anything, let me know. Maybe bring me in and I'll help you promote. I'm a good promoter. I'm starting promoting now, my own promotion company, Hammer House Promotions.
Hey man, I'll keep it, definitely appreciate that. Thank you.
But I am serious, but I can't wait. I love this BKB and I can't wait to see the 4-man tournament and the other super fights you got. But everybody's got their money on Mighty Mo. We'll see if somebody can upset him.
We'll see, right?
Who you got? You can't say.
I can't, but I think the two England guys.
The two England guys, McSweeney, who was an alternate,
Yeah.
and Godbeer, they've got experience in bare knuckle already, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, they got experience, that's for sure, but Mighty Mo hits hard.
Oh, yeah.
And his head is hard.
Yes.
So,
It'll be fun to watch.
great card. I got a lot of my old friends want in there, Ken, so we gotta get some Hammer House guys in there.
We're gonna get it going.
One
So,
overtime question.
Yeah, I have a question for Ken. Could you explain a little bit more about with Valor? You're doing something unique where the audience, took together. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, for me, I've always kind of, and it's sometimes not good, but I've always cared about what the fans thought. Even when I fought, I always wanted to make sure that I gave my effort and that they appreciated the fight. And so fans to me were important to include in everything that I was doing. And this is no different in Valor. I wanted them to be a part of what we were doing. And the team that I had put together and all the guys, we came up with an idea of letting the fans actually vote on who they would want to see fight each other in the first round of the tournament. So we let the fans vote on who they wanted to fight one another. And I remember a bunch of us guys, Richard Goodman and Todd Middendorf and Christian, a lot of other guys that are on our staff, we kind of came up with what we wanted to see, which we wanted to see Mighty Mo and Zokoju. We wanted to see, Godbeer and Heaton. And so we kind of knew what we wanted, but we were going to let the fans vote on it. So the fans voted, and we had a tremendous turnout. And they voted the same way that we would have put the fight card on. So it was awesome to see the fans get involved and have the same mentality.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense too.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they know, right?
Let the two
They're very
young
intelligent.
guys go at it, and so could you and Mighty Mo. That's gonna be sick.
That's
man.
gonna be, I want to see that one. Always want to see those guys
All right.
fight.
Now we can get a few more pictures and stuff.
That's it.
I want to thank the Alexis MMA VIP Club.
Eddie.
at ease, everybody. It's over.